today we have the Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation of the Republic of South Sudan, Honorable Pal Mai Deng. He is on a visit to the Arab Republic of Egypt, and today we will discuss with him his achievement in the ministry, because next week it would be 1 year since being appointed by President Kiir into the position. We will also discuss the clearance or the dredging of the river in Unity State, and we would also discuss the clean drinking water delivery in South Sudan. Honorable Mai, welcome to this interview, and thank you for accepting our request for an interview with you.
Well, thanks you very much for hosting me, and I also have the opportunity to thank my viewers. Yes.
On November 7th, it would be 1 year since you were appointed into the position. Looking back, what would you see as an achievement?
I have done, I think, quite a lot, and I will not remember all that I have achieved in my appointment as minister, but few things that I would like to share with Sudan Post in this interview is that when I assumed the positions of being minister, I actually have succeeded in reactivating the relationship between the ministry and humanitarian partners and donor community. And as a result of this engagement, we have mobilized financial resources worth of 215 million from the World Bank for the implementations of regional climate resilient projects. We have also succeeded in getting funding from the African Development Bank. We have the support of the Swedish government, and quite many funding opportunities have been attracted, and as a result of that, we are now having programs of building groundwater stations in different parts of the country. We have also tried to make sure that the provision of safe and clean drinking water for Juba is to be made available for urban water, for urban populations in Juba.
Okay,
So the achievements are
okay.
quite
We will
lot.
get to the issue of the urban water later in this interview. But first, let us discuss the issue of dredging. Some people call it dredging, and initially the government referred to it as dredging, but then now what is happening in Unity State, the government is saying it is clearing and not it is clearance and not dredging. So can you tell us what is the right word to describe the ongoing operation in Unity State?
Well, I think the right terminology is very clear, and it has been out of media for almost a year. But I do not know why the citizens refuse to accept what the government is saying. In the first place, the decision of the government was to do dredging. But when the public reacts or go against it, then the decision changed because the recommendation for public consultation was that there is a need for feasibility studies and assessment to be done first before we do dredge. So we then came back as a government to say what we need to do now before we make feasibility studies, which requires time, which also requires financial support, is to make sure that we remove aquatic weeds and wooden log from the rivers. So the terminology is the removal of aquatic weeds and wooden log, not even cleaning. Or you can actually substitute the term removal of aquatic weeds and wooden log with the term cleaning. So what is happening now is the removal of aquatic weeds, the removal of wooden logs from the river, so that the river becomes clear. And the intended purpose is to facilitate movement, communication, and promotions of fishing industry. So this is what is happening.
Okay. Well, the removal of the aquatic weed, as you put it, do you think that it has anything to do with the flooding?
What well exactly you
because around 80% of unity
let me
states
let me
covered
come
in water.
let me come. You know, the reality is that this removal of aquatic weeds and wooden log is done in Naam River. And you know, Naam River is an existing river. It is not a new river to be created through removal of aquatic weeds and wooden log, but it has been silted too much with vegetation and wooden logs. Okay, and it is this siltation with aquatic weeds and wooden logs that are being removed. Yes, the intended purpose of this is not actually to resolve the issue of flooding, because from scientifically speaking, removals of aquatic weeds and wooden log has never been a solution to flood. Okay, so the intended purpose of removal of aquatic weed from rivers is always for the promotion of navigations and water transport.
But most citizens
But
in unity
but
states,
it has an implication of reducing floods, which is not the real which is not the intended objectives of cleaning and clearing. But it can mitigate flood to some extent, because the flow regime of the river to a very small extent can be increased. And that probably may lead to, of course, receding of volume of water in the area. But the real intention is to promote navigation and water transport,
okay,
so that goods from capital city like Juba can be transported from there to states where the availability of goods is very low.
So now, are you saying that the intention for the removal of the weeds inside River Nam is not to reduce the flooding, but to ease the movement of goods from
Yes,
the
intended, to be honest, the intended purpose of doing clearing and cleaning is to enhance navigation and water transport.
Okay,
but it has an indirect effect of mitigating flood.
Okay.
Because so long as the rivers are going to be clean and clear, then the flow of river might be increased to a very little extent, and that probably may result in reductions of floods.
Okay, Honorable, it has been 4 years, or it has been 4 years since the flooding started in South Sudan, and by saying that the intended purpose of the ongoing operation in the Naam River is not to mitigate floods, but to ease the movement of goods, despite the fact that you mentioned that it has an indirect,
I have no rule out completely. I have to be very clear. I have no rule out that the intended purpose of doing clearing, of making clean and clean unity state, has nothing to do with mitigation of flood. But the major intention, the major objective, as it is always the case, is to make sure that navigation and water transport system is restored.
Okay.
While this very action can also mitigate the effect of floods by at least trying to see whether these actions can actually increase the flow regime of the river around the area.
Okay,
but that is not the major intention.
Then did the government know in advance that there was going to be flood?
Well, for quite some years, we never have such kinds of of disasters. We of course have flood, but not to this extent. So I think the government was not aware that such a flood with such magnitude might affect the country. And as a result of that, because of lack of preparation, the impacts of these floods and torrential rains have become very damaging, with quite many people displaced, loss of agricultural land, and then outbreak of diseases and destructions of livelihood.
Now there are these conspiracy theories. Some people say that it is the construction of the GERD, of the Grand Ethiopian Renaissance Dam, that has resulted in this disaster, and some say that it is pure climate change, and some say that these are water which have been released from one of the dams in Uganda. What can you say?
This is complete misperception with misperception. So flood that we have been having in South Sudan for almost these 4 years do not have connection with constructions of GAD. This is direct effects of climate change. We had droughts in Somalia 2 years ago. It was very serious, and that was directly linked to issue of climate change. There was no cyclone, especially in Madagascar, in Mozambique, and floods also recently in Libya, and so they are not associated with constructions of any water infrastructure in the region or in that particular area. So the cause of these floods and torrential rains in South Sudan are completely direct effects of climate change. They are the results of global warming. But South Sudan is located, in the heart of the Nile Basin, and it is also located, downstream to countries like Central African Republic, DRC, Uganda, and Ethiopia. And we are a country without having dams for regulations of flow of water. So because of this, waters from the region comes and collect in South Sudan, and because of too much rain, the volume of water also increase, and that also, become very destructive. So it is, to answer your question in short, the flood and torrential rains we had in South Sudan for the last 4 years are direct effects of climate change.
Okay, and then what is the government plan to ease this situation? Because in Unity State and in most parts of Jungle State, people have been displaced. People have moved away from their ancestral land. Our citizens returning from Sudan because of the ongoing conflict have not been able to return to their homes because of the floodings. So, what is the government plan to solve this issue?
As you know, that climate change has become a global concern. It's not only in South Sudan that we are affected; it happens everywhere. What we are now doing as a government is to make sure that we come up with some solutions. But these solutions are not to be effective enough that even if another floods and torrential rains comes, we will be able to prevent. But we are saying that we need to construct dikes for those that are in flood-prone areas. We have to do embankment of the rivers. We have to make sure that potable water is also provided for those that are affected by floods, and water infrastructure such as dikes, canals, and constructions of large water reservoirs are the plans and priorities of the government as we speak. But everything is related to finance. You have to have money for you to be able to translate these ideas. And what we are actually doing is to mobilize the resources from donor community and implementing agencies so that we will have an intervention to mitigate the impact of climate change. We have got recently a good amounts of money from the World Bank for intervention, coordination, and policy development. especially in regional climate resilience. We will also have another funding from the same World Bank for groundwater resource management, and yes, these are what we are trying.
Okay, why is it so hard for the government to construct a dam, or it is just because you don't see it as one of the solutions to the floods?
It's the government has idea of doing this, but for us to construct such kinds of water infrastructure, it has to have finance, it has to have money, it has to have feasibility studies to be done first before it comes to the implementation. Because of lack of finance, we have not been able to construct our own. But the government has this plan of actually constructing a dams for regulating flow of rivers as a solution to flood. But that depends on financial availability.
Okay, so
of
it
the
is
government.
not the opposition of regional
And
some of the
I don't
region.
think I don't
It is purely
I don't
about finance.
I don't think that this is also another misconception that if the government of South Sudan wants to build a dam, then someone else in the region will come and oppose. This is completely unacceptable. And people are saying that the what prevents government of South Sudan from building dams might be from Egypt, which is completely not true. We have Sudan between Egypt and South Sudan. It has built about 5 dams or 6. I don't know if you know this. And Egyptian government has not been opposed or did not oppose the construction of such dams. 5 dams built in Sudan, and even with the support of Egypt. So if Sudan, which is closer to Egypt, builds 5 dams, okay, without being opposed by Egyptian government, why would Egypt go and oppose constructions of one dam in South Sudan? This has never been the case. I used to come to Cairo here, and in most of my discussion with the Egyptian government, one of the requests I put forward is that we need to have a dam. It is one of the requests that I gave them, and they are very supportive. So I just want to tell you that if there are people who are saying South Sudan has not build dam or is not going to build dam because Egypt is going to oppose, is completely misleading.
Okay, Honorable, you have mentioned your trip to Egypt. This is one of many.
Yes,
and
one of the 3.
Yeah, one of three
yes.
trips.
Yes, one of the 3 trips.
Yeah. Most of our citizens they are suspicious of this of the government of South Sudan's relations with Egypt. What are we benefiting from this?
I do not know why I do not know how our citizens gets the mentality of thinking that Egypt might not be a good friend to South Sudan. They talk of Egypt, especially when it comes to dredging, that our water will come to Egypt, refusing to talk about Sudan. Sudan is closer, is the country having border with us. If we have fish to live, if we have water to live, they should first go to Sudan. And Sudan has got 5 dams, controlling resource, controlling fish and water.
Yeah.
So it will be up to Sudan now to prevent fish and water from leaving Sudan into Egypt. So our relationship with Egypt is good, and they are now supporting the government of South Sudan in the in installation of groundwater stations for small towns. They are also constructing appeals in areas where there is scarcity of water, and they have provided machine freely for doing cleaning and clearing. So I don't see any problem with the with the Egyptian
Okay.
Egyptian government presence in South Sudan.
90% of of of, of the residents of Juba drink from the Nile.
Mm-hmm.
What are your plans, and 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 when do you think that does your ministry have a plan to cover the whole of Juba, and in how many years?
This is very serious challenge. We have to admit that we have to live with challenges. South Sudan got independent in 2011, and 2 years after independence, we went into war, and as a result of that, the priorities of the government began to shift. As a result of that, or because of that, uh, uh, the government of South Sudan wasn't able to provide safe and clean drinking water to populations in Juba through household 5 network. And the only way we are now supplying our population in Juba with water is by blue tankers. But the question is this going to be the case? Definitely no. As we speak, we are now, doing five line extensions along the road. Five lines, five lines extension along the main road for household connection. And I'm sure in the next 2 years to come, Juba will have household connection, and everyone will be getting water from inside his or her own house. Yes, so this is a plan in the making, but be mindful that for these projects to succeed, an element of finance is very important. It has to be financed. Unfortunately, the government has not allocated money for this. We are now doing this with the support of the partners. It is the African Development Bank that has given us money, to put pipes along the road for a household connection. But we have an idea as ministry in South Sudan Urban Water Corporation that if we will not have money provided by the government for the implementation of these projects, we will then privatize using build, operate, and transfer kinds of agreement with a private company. This is also something that is in the making.
If you have a message for the people of South Sudan, what can you tell them?
Well, my message to people of South Sudan is that the 7 years war, seven years war we had, need to be considered as short-term thing for us to have long-term prosperity. And what we have learned from this war was destruction of properties, loss of lives, and hopelessness. And as a result of that, we have lagged behind. So what is important for us as a country and for us as leaders is to leave a good legacy of making sure that South Sudan is united, of making sure that this peace we are implementing is sustainable, so that the future for the present and future generation is bright. And this is and this is possible. It can be met. I want to tell every one of us that we have to learn to fear violence. That we have to fear violence and accept to work or to live in peace and harmony. So this can be the message I can put out for everyone.
Honorable Pal Mai Deng, Minister of Water Resources and Irrigation, thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you.